This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell & Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
I'm on a text thread of very important people. Won't go into it, but like very important people in government.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out. And he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a podcast about power and politics in New York. And on this episode, we're checking in with Ben Liebman because he is the first person that came to mind when the state's gaming facility location board began handing out 3 casino licenses earlier this week for the New York City area. Ben Liebman is a household name for anyone who's followed the state's gambling industries for more than a hot minute, and he actually helped write the law that has led to the proliferation of casinos around New York following the adoption of the 2013 constitutional amendment. Welcome back to the show, Ben, and thanks for joining us in the studio.
It's my pleasure.
So as I mentioned at the top, there were 3 licenses, and they went out to the 3 remaining proposals. There was a fourth until it basically pulled itself out of contention right at the finish line. That was a project from MGM in Yonkers. But given the fact that we had 3 licenses for 3 operations at the end of the day, are you surprised that they decided to award all the licenses and didn't decide, well, let's save one for a rainy day?
No, I'm not surprised. So, basically we're in a position of what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to help raise revenue. We're supposed to find jobs. We're going to leave a lot of money on the table. The decision was really not a no-brainer. You look at what was in front of them, and that's the decision that they almost had to make.
Anything stand out to you about these proposals? And for listeners who have not been following, we've got 2 in Queens. One is Resorts World New York City, which already has electronic gaming. And then there's the Hard Rock Metropolitan Park, which is the much ballyhooed proposal from Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. And then there's Bally's Bronx, which, as you might guess, is in the Bronx. Anything stand out to you about these?
Well, we now have, in effect, the Van Wyck Expressway Casino Alley, as the casinos now run from the Bronx Whitestone Bridge past City Field along the Van Wyck Expressway to Resorts World at Aqueduct. We almost have the Casino Alley scheduled for Queens and the Bronx. So it's the standout here is how in the world did Bally's get through this? I mean, Bally's, by this time, it's not the fabled Bally's casinos that may have been big in the late 20th century. It's a company operating a number of casinos, but not anything spectacular at all, operating out of with a proposal on brownfields in a location that has no subway access, that needed both state legislative and city legislative approval to get through. It just seems remarkable that they made their way through this. You could not have predicted this. There's so many things about this process that are hard to believe in retrospect. The 4 casino companies with the largest market cap, the ones who you'd think would be all in to get a casino in the New York City area, that's MGM, Caesars, Sands, and Wynn, they don't make their way through it. The New York real estate operators, the commercial real estate operators, known especially for their political savvy, whether we're talking Related or SL Green, RXR, all shut out in the process. You would not have believed going into this from 22 that this was going to be the result of the process. And then you have even odder things happen where Sands, which had a proposal in Nassau County, and given the way the process was set up, you'd think a clear path in getting buys into the finals withdraws.
Right.
What makes it strange is the almost obvious shoddy reason that they gave, which was the possibility of internet gambling in New York. Well, there's a possibility of internet gambling in every state. It made no sense. You saw Yonkers MGM, with an even stranger result, having been approved to get into the final battle, getting out by saying you only qualify for a 15-year renewal.
Yeah, you're speaking about the licenses. They thought they were going to have a longer timeline for that license.
So they go default back to their video lottery facility, which has a 5-year renewal. None of this makes any sense.
Well, I mentioned that you have been someone who worked on these issues for years. You had the ear of the governor, Governor Cuomo, at the time that this was devised, and you helped write the 2013 law that got us to this point. So did this play out the way you envisioned 12 years ago?
No. No, I would have thought we'd have... I don't see how you could legitimately have a case against Resorts World.
And that's the project in Queens.
In Aqueduct. I mean, sometimes the legislature in New York and sometimes the elected officials in New York City don't seem to get it. Video lottery terminal facilities, especially MGM at Yonkers and Resorts World at Aqueduct, they're de facto casinos. Resorts World Aqueduct is the largest casino in the country in terms of gambling revenue. They're number one. You're dealing with a company, at least at Aqueduct, that for close to 15 years has been incredibly successful and certainly had raised no real issues inside the community. How can you really deny them a license after their really good record here? I mean,
they got a license.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing that played out.
Mm-hmm. That people have been predicting them and Yonkers to get casinos for more than a decade now.
Yeah, and that's the other part with Yonkers is that's why MGM bought into Yonkers in 2018, because the whole point was we buy in now, we'll get a casino.
And the conspiracy theory is that by removing themselves from contention, it meant that the Bally's project would get a license, and that was something where the Trump organization stood to benefit to the tune of more than $100 million. And we don't need to pontificate on that. But what about the outsized role of localities to basically have a veto over proposals? Are you surprised that that's how things ended up playing out? Because some of the opponents of additional casinos and gambling more broadly in New York basically argued that this was something they foresaw down the road, that this was their way to keep a casino out of Manhattan, for example, if you're State Senator Liz Krueger.
In part, but the system that they chose, which is how it was written, and it's really questionable. I mean, we had a big court case really dealing with the Ethics Commission and whether and how you could go about appointing people, giving New York City councilmen the right to appoint people to a commission that will make a decision on whether a casino will be built there. That's really questionable. I mean, how do you do this? The methodology of this was very, very strange. And you ended up with almost a block vote from the elected officials in Manhattan, which is like, why go for this? Why do we need this?
Well, if you had been emperor of all things gambling in 2025, how would you have apportioned out the licenses? It is as simple as put one in Yonkers, put one in Queens, and do something on Long Island? Or would you have tried to get creative with, say, a license in Manhattan?
I think going back, the better thing would have been to grandfather in Yonkers and Resorts World Aqueduct and then have a free-for-all competition for the final one. By not being in Manhattan, you lose the opportunity for at least what we assume is the ability to have a ton of revenue. The belief has always been that a Manhattan casino with access to hotels, entertainment, reaching so many non-New Yorkers would be the best possible location for a casino. And I'm not sure if that's right, but I think you'd want to have one free-for-all to see what that would happen. Factoring in communities, who knows? Right now we had a process where it simply was, how many community groups can we buy off? And okay, well, we weren't able to get Senator Ramos. Let's get somebody else to do this.
Enter Senator Lieu.
It's just a process that really is not the rational way you want to go about having casinos. It's become a large free-for-all as to who can we find to give community benefits to.
For the holiday season, Dispatches from Planet Albany is offering a special gift when you support the show. A $50 contribution or recurring commitment of $5 a month gets you a 12x9 poster celebrating life in Planet Albany. More information, including a link to donate, can be found wherever you listen to this podcast. Support for Dispatches from Planet Albany provided by National Fuel. Natural gas delivers affordable, reliable energy to millions of New Yorkers every day. Trusted utilities are committed to keeping homes warm, businesses running, and communities thriving. Natural gas is a critical part of an all-of-the-above energy strategy, one that prioritizes sustainability for the Empire State's future. Learn more at betterplannobans.com. So in terms of the benefits, here's some of the numbers that the state's gaming facility location board referenced in terms of their expectations for the future. And these are based on some of the consultants' numbers. So this includes annual gaming tax revenue of nearly $1 billion in 2036. Additional state and local taxes are projected to generate approximately $5.9 billion over a decade. Ultimately, though, are these going to be destination casinos that are bringing in new players and new money, or do you view these projects as essentially convenience gaming and that they'll grab from the nearby people, they'll siphon off some people that might have gone to other casinos who now have a closer option? How do you think about these in terms of the audience that they're going to serve?
I don't know. I mean, given their location, I mean, you'd have to look and see who Resorts World has served so far. Mm-hmm. Has it basically been people from Queens, Nassau County, and Brooklyn, or have they gotten the major tourist trade? I mean, we do have the advantage that both Resorts World and the Steve Cohen Casino will be are close to the major airports in New York City. Mm-hmm. That's a help. They're both on significant subway lines. That's a help. But will people from Manhattan, will tourists coming to America, or coming to New York City from other areas of this continent, will they be going out there? I don't know.
And in terms of who these players are interested in, is this a volume business where it's just, hey, we've got 9 million people in New York City, so of course I want to be here? Or is it the case that New York City might attract high rollers and those big whales are what I really want as a casino, and I don't really care about the degenerate gamblers, so to speak? I
think more on the first one than the second one. I mean, by now, with so many casinos across the country, any casino granting benefits can catch whales. I mean, it's hard to compete in the whale business. Maybe Resorts World can bring in people from Southeast Asia who are whales, but bringing in whales is, you're competing not just against two other casinos in New York.
Right.
You're competing against the world, and I'm not sure who has an advantage there.
Yeah, I don't think America is considered the destination for premier gambling.
Let's go to Macau.
Resorts World does not only have an interest in Queens, they also have interest in a casino in the Hudson Valley in, I believe, Sullivan County. What are your expectations for that place now that they are probably going to lose any New York City people who might have been going there just for convenience gaming.
They also have the video lottery terminal facility in Newburgh as well. So, but I mean, Resorts World Catskills has been underperforming to such a degree that it's hard to believe that anything, any new casinos there will affect them at all.
Really?
They just aren't doing business. It's just amazing how little business that casino does.
So it can't do worse.
It's hard to believe that a new casino would do that. I mean, maybe if Yonkers went to a casino, it would hurt them, but they're doing very, very badly. You look at, I played around with their numbers for income per day per slot machine, and it's something about like $175. I mean, Saratoga, basically just a VLT facility run at Saratoga, does about $300. Rivers Casino Schenectady is over $400. It's hard to believe their business will be hurt because they do so little business.
Anything else you're thinking about in light of these recent awards?
Let's start with this one. The Gaming Commission has to review these really to see if they're okay for legitimate.
They're not run by criminals, basically?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be almost a de novo review. The chairman there keeps saying it's a tabula rasa. But it's not for Bally's and for Resorts World, because Resorts World, as we've already discussed, has run 3 facilities in this state. If they qualify for a casino in the Catskills, how do they not qualify for a casino in Queens? It's hard to say you've allowed this already. Bally's has had a sports betting license since the onset of sports betting, of remote sports betting in 2022. How do you say after licensing these folks for 3.5 years that they suddenly don't qualify? I mean, Steve Cohen is sort of a different story. I mean, he's got this huge fine from the Securities and Exchange Commission, but MLB has allowed him to go on where he's almost like a very much liked owner. If you were starting without this, maybe you'd have questions about this, but you almost have a feeling where the commission is forced to say, you got some problems, but we're going to let you in. It's going to sound like the judge in Miracle on 34th Street. They're going to say, since Major League Baseball recognizes you as a legitimate person, the state of New York will honor that decision.
That's a good reference.
Yeah.
First mover advantage, is that going to be a big deal, you think, for Resorts World, given the fact that they've got the infrastructure already and can have live table games up as soon as they can push some machines to the side, basically?
I think it is. I mean, they keep saying they're going to start middle of next year. And the fact is, they've been waiting for 15 years to do this, so you'd hope that they would be ready. If and when Steve Cohen comes into operation, what are you going to do? Will people switch the allegiance? I don't know.
Well, we talked about the timeline horizon of these licenses, and thinking about how the gambling landscape in New York has changed over the quarter of a century makes me think that I'd almost be more concerned about what's going to happen a couple years from now as opposed to a guaranteed license stretching out 2-3 decades. I mean, we've seen mobile sports wagering has changed the game, and if New York ever did acquiesce on the demands of mobile casino gaming, I wonder whether people would even show up in a physical location to scratch that itch.
That's where a lot of things are going. I mean, other than where we're going with Kalshi and other issues on prediction markets, but you'll see studies back and forth where somebody will say it has no effect. We look at New Jersey, we look at Michigan, we don't see any effect on brick and mortar, but if you're running a union, I mean, especially let's say the union that operates at Resorts World, you're going to say, I really don't think I want this. We're doing fine. This can only hurt us in the long run. On the other hand, internet gambling brings a ton of revenue.
Right. It's that question about tax revenue versus economic activity.
you just know that in the next 5 years there will be a fiscal crisis in New York State, and we'll say, if we want to keep those buses free in New York City, we're going to need internet gambling.
Well, sticking with fiscal crises, but of the kinds that the gambling operators might have, are you anticipating that we're going to see some of the upstate operators come to Albany this session and say, hey, now that these new players have a license, can we get another look at our tax rates? And also then, when do you think we're going to begin hearing from Resorts World in New York City, Hard Rock Metropolitan Park, or Bally's in the Bronx, that they're going to need new tax rate changes?
I don't know. We certainly saw that, and we've seen that continuously for the 25 years now that we've had video lottery terminals. Right. Everybody comes in and says, we're not making it in Vernon Downs. You got to lower our tax rate. You're going to see that. You need like a year of operation, and you say it's not working. You got to do something for us. This has always happened. I mean, right now, you look at horse racing, obviously not at the strongest level, and you see that the pari-mutuel taxes, which used to bring in a ton of revenue, now bring in almost nothing. I think I did one study where when you factored in inflation, pari-mutuel taxes from, let's say, most of the 60s raised more money than sports gambling, and now they raise nothing. That's almost inevitable. That if some form of gambling goes down, they'll come in here. We provide lots of benefits to the communities. We provide jobs. We're part of the fabric. You've got to do something to lower our tax rate, and you can expect that. That's just the way. That's the way. It's hard to single out, and maybe it's unfortunate to single out gambling entities, but that's the way business is going to be run.
Do you think we're done handing out casino licenses? Do you think there's ever going to be a time when they say, let's open up the state constitution and let's just make it infinity number of licenses? Why hamstring ourselves like this?
I don't think you can get it by voters right now. I think that would be a really tough sell. However, you can always try to figure out some way to bring in more tribal casinos. You could use that as a fashion. By now, given the sophistication of video electronic games, the more video lottery facilities are approximate casinos. You do that as a way. You can put in the video lottery terminals in truck stops. You can be like Illinois, which seems to have some sort of gambling facility every mile or so if you're traveling on a highway. We have a state constitution that bans gambling, but there are infinite ways to expand gambling in New York.
Well, one of the ways that the horsemen are pretty interested in possibly expanding gambling are these historical horse racing machines. Essentially, they give you a scenario that is a real race, and you bet on it without knowing the specifics of it, and they point to how successful this has been in Kentucky. You think anyone's ever going to be able to get some traction on that in New York? I don't really see the appetite for it.
If you come to in 2000, yes. 2025 is a tough sell. They don't really need it because who doesn't have a video lottery facility? Right. Saratoga, but NYRA gets money from
Aqueduct.
From Aqueduct, and everybody in running a track has a separate source of revenue.
Capital OTB would probably like some of them.
Yes, that's the way of dealing with this, giving everybody a video. We turn into the Oprah show. You get video lottery. Everybody gets a video lottery game.
Well, we've been speaking with Ben Liebman. He's a former top racing and gaming advisor in New York, who's now the go-to person I text and talk to when I want to gossip about gambling. Ben, thank you so much for sharing your insights and institutional knowledge.
It's been my pleasure.